This next page, the gender role, masculinity, femininity. See, the wine culture in China is masculine. Do you mean the alcohol culture in China? That's one of my questions about your paper is there a wine culture in China? What is the current wine culture like? Is it a small wine culture, or is it becoming very big in China? And so is the current wine culture masculine, or do you just mean alcohol in general is masculine? Therefore, wine is would be assumed to be masculine as well. Here you talk about under the same paragraph, drinking has become a problem many women can't avoid. What's the problem? Explain why that's a problem for women. I think you mean that as women are involved in business, much of business is done with alcohol, so that therefore women have to also participate in alcohol. But you don't directly say that, so you need to make that more clear. Question 12 is actually question 11 in your survey. Under uncertainty avoidance, I think a better phrase is tolerance of ambiguity. Uncertainty avoidance, it just doesn't, these two words don't make much sense to me, or don't. I think tolerance for ambiguity is more clear. Here it says, you define it as ultimately referring to man's search for truth. I would just take this phrase out. This is a very philosophical statement that's not necessary in your paper. If it is necessary, you need to say more about how the search for truth relates to wine, but I don't think that's important, so I just take it out, take it away. On this next page, you talk about the quality control problems in the alcohol industry, how it needs to be developed. But I'm not sure how this section really in the end fits into your paper, or how it relates to your thesis. How does this connect to culture? How does it connect more to wine culture? Do people not buy wine? Do they not drink wine because it's low quality? Why is this? How does developing more quality control sell more wine? Maybe it's because, I don't know, maybe it's obvious, but with this section on uncertainty avoidance, I see the connection between China's tolerance for ambiguity and inadequate laws and rules for quality control. But you say that people pay little attention on the quality. It sounds like people don't care about the quality of alcohol or the quality of wine. So if they don't care, how does that fit into your thesis? Again, I'm not completely clear on your thesis. I think your thesis is ways to sell more wine in China. If that's your thesis, or part of it, then low quality, a wine producer then shouldn't really care about low quality, because people don't care about low quality. That means people are willing to drink wine that's low quality. So is this statement really what you want to say? Is that really true? Because on the next page, you talk more about it to solve these problems. Well, these problems are with with quality control. But is that a wine culture problem? Does that really affect wine culture? I don't think so. So this whole section, you need to make it directly relate to your thesis. China's dietary culture, you talk about Chinese are the most particular nation, one of the most particular nations about diet. You need to give an example or show how that's true. You talk about after the 80s, the 20th century, the wine market in China has entered a rapid period of development. That seems to contradict what you say about the wine culture not developing well. This is what I'm talking about. You need to be more clear about the current wine culture, the current development of wine in China. I love this part about Chinese tea versus wine. But for this sentence, this is a great introduction to a paragraph. But you need to write more. You need to give examples about how tea is related to wine. And here, the history of tea. Is the history of tea similar to the West's history of wine? If so, talk about it. Talk more about the connection, how they're similar. That'd be an interesting paragraph. You can maybe put this information in the first part of your paper. This part, the last paragraph, you talk about that tea is the most popular beverage on the Chinese dinner table. The tea is part of many Chinese diet, especially elderly people. This is a potential consumer group. Who is the potential consumer group? Elderly people? Or you mean tea drinkers are a potential consumer group? So how do you develop this market? Again, what's the market? Is it a market for tea drinkers, or is it a market for elderly? Because that's not very clear. If it is a market, if the tea drinkers are a market, you need to show how they are a market. I don't see the connection between drinking tea, which is very cheap, usually very cheap at a restaurant, how wine could also become a common drink when wine is more expensive. Tea often has caffeine. Wines have alcohol. So they have different effects on the body. So explain what this market is and how it's related.